advance for hopefully our 16th clean audit outcome as well. Our budget in the upcoming year is reflective of the balance that we've had to create between the increased cost of employment to costs in order for us to meet the demands of the wage agreement, and then also the projects that we've been funding over the years from our own baseline funding. Our presentation to MTech was also emphasize our constitutional and legislative mandate as it relates to oversight, and also the Western Cape Community Safety Act, where our priorities our Neighbourhood Watch accreditation, the transversal security services, as well our oversight mandate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, can I check if there are any questions pertaining to the opening remarks that the Minister and the HOD made, or can we go straight into the Blue Book? Member Barnes, do you have a question?
Yes, Chair. Just one question, Chair. From the input of the MEC and the HOD, one gets to understand that for all departments there are budget cuts in, and definitely that services gets there's a huge impact on how service gets done. But the reality of the matter, Chair, is that we have serious crime-related issues in the Western Cape. Now, MEC speaks of reprioritizing and priorities. When you get to that decision with the crime levels that we are having, where is your focus? How do you say we are focusing? This is the priority areas based on the situation that is unique of this province. It's only that question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Van Vogel also has a question based on the opening remarks.
It's not a question, Chair, but thanks for the opportunity. I really welcome the input by the Minister. But I think we must not blame the wage agreement when it comes to our predicament that we are in now, because our workers in the Western Cape are the lowest paid workers, and they really deserve it. So I don't want them to feel we are blaming. They don't deserve what they will get. So I want to thank all those hardworking officials who are really doing their best with what they in their limits. So I don't want them to feel that we are blaming them of, let's say, the wage agreement that was signed off to improve their lives. So let us, they deserve it. Let us really, kom ons praat lekker oor dit wat hulle verdien. So yeah, it's just an input from my side. Thanks, Chair.
Minister, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much. Member Van Vogel, I definitely appreciate those comments. I think my exact words were that our officials deserve what is due to them. And it's definitely when we see in our province, and I think in many other provinces as well, dedicated officials that are committed not only to fulfilling their constitutional mandates, but actually delivering services for the residents. So we definitely support the notion that wage increase was needed. However, it is a concern that when there was a in-year budget cut, because as a department and as various departments within the Western Cape, we have budgeted. There is certain contractual obligations that we had to meet. And within a year, we then saw a 1.1 billion rand budget cut. I went to a community called Elsies, and engaging Elsies residents, the only practical example I could make was that if I'm coming home die 7de en ek sê vir my vrou, daar is nou meer geld nie, but we have budgeted, because die 15de van elke maand doen ons 'n begroting en ons weet ons budget vir A, B en C, en ek hou van koffie drink en my vrou drink tea. And it's so difficult because we now can either afford only the tea or the coffee, because we need to prioritize. In some kere kan ons net water afford. So it's in that particular environment that we have felt the budget cuts. not only in our department, but across each and every department. But I would also echo your sentiments, Member Van Voorgel, that we are wanting to say to each and every official in the Western Cape, thank you for their hard work, for their dedication, over 80,000 of them that is able to ensure that we as a provincial parliament is also able to highlight the successes that they have achieved. It's not merely the successes that politicians or that persons that serve in the executive have achieved. It's ultimately an entire whole of government approach, and it latches onto my whole of government comment that I want to make, in that this particular budget is within a broader budget. And the broader budget in terms of the safety response and the priorities, latching onto Member Barnes's question, it's very clear that in the tabling of the budget, the MEC then provided an update to this particular house in terms of the safety priorities. And that includes the work that we do in well-being, the work that we do in social development to address gender-based violence as a key priority, because we are wanting to ensure our women are safe, the work that social development is doing, the work that cultural affairs and sport is doing. I've often spoken about a conveyor belt of young people into a life of gangsterism, the work that cultural affairs and sport is doing. It also has a direct impact on safety, because if a young person is on a conveyor belt to identify his talent, to ultimately broaden his scope and his cultural activity so that he can ultimately be busy with proactive initiatives and not be caught up with gangsterism, etc. So it is a whole of government approach, and our particular budget is within a broader budget in the Western Cape. So it's definitely needing to prioritize our key interventions, and we have adopted an evidence-based and data-led approach, Member Barnes, which is focused on looking where the need is the greatest and addressing that need based on limitations. And it is twofold. On the one hand, where we have stepped in and where we have stepped up. For example, colleagues will know where our LEAP officers are deployed. So they work in partnership with the South African Police Service in our crime murder hotspots. But in those particular areas, there's also what we refer to as our area-based teams that has stakeholders from CPFs, neighborhood watches, NPOs and NGOs in a particular area, but also includes the NPA, includes justice, includes each and every department that plays a role in that particular area. So the priorities has been outlined by the Premier in his SOPA to make sure that we can, from the law enforcement component, make sure that we continue with the LEAP intervention. We can also see that how the Premier has demanded our oversight to be ramped up, because we are wanting to take responsibility. I personally, when there is a matter with regards to the South African Police Service, everyone this side of the aisle will also take it personally, because it reflects on us as well. We want a professional police service. We want to strengthen the hand of the South African Police Service, and the budget allocated to ensure that we can fulfill those functions is actually reflected in our budget. So oversight and police oversight is a key component to the work that we do. But we will be able to flesh out all of our priorities within the various questions that Member Barnes will still ask.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will now then go straight into the meat of our conversation. I'm going to table the Blue Book, which is vote 4, starting on page 134 in the Budget Estimates of Provincial Revenue and Expenditure 2024, as well as the Annual Performance Plan for the Department and the Western Cape Liquor Authority. And we will discuss all of it at the same time. If you can be so kind as just to indicate if there's a specific page that you're referring to, what that page is as well. And we will do this until 10:15. We will then break for a comfort break and for some refreshments, and then we'll come back and continue. Can I get an indication from members for the first round? Member Christians, Member Bartman, Member Barnes, and Member Kasim online. Member Alan, you are no longer a member of this committee, but you've raised your hand.
It was exactly 2 years ago today when there was a social media reminder and there were some familiar faces in that particular photo where we sat here 2 years ago. Wasim is the constant, but I just want to double check, Chairperson. We are tabling the budget today, which is from pages 134.
135, yes, and the APP.
Yeah.
And this book.
Yes, we received a notice in order to present and to field questions on the budget. Are we doing the APP and the budget?
So members normally ask questions based on both
Yes.
because this informs your budget, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can schedule a separate meeting if you'd like to do the APP on its own, Minister. That's debatable. I'm glad Member Barnes made it to get done. But just in the order of how the questions will go, it will be Member Christians, Bartman, Barnes, Kasim, and then Pretorius. And then Member Harris. Member Christians, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm on page 141. You know, when you look at the service delivery risks, it's a concern. I'm not going to, the department can explain, you know, those service delivery risks. And then just to say, so that's 4, 5, and 6. 5 is about reprioritization. The question, so the department can explain that, but the big thing that I'm asking on procurement is I see that the last paragraph there, that uniforms for neighborhood watches, do they have uniforms or BIPs? Is that the right terminology? What do they have? Are they going to have uniforms now and not BIPs? For a period of 36 months. I just want to have that answered. But the one thing that I constantly answer, and the HOD most probably knows coming, I've mentioned it in the premiers, the SOPA, I mentioned it. Why? So I want to also know from the department, you know, neighborhood watches. I think there's a large turnover. You know, people don't get stipends, people don't get this, and there's a large turnover. So what is the carrot for them? And I still believe we and the HOD said last time they must be auxiliary workers or something like that to have them in the system. Talking about the funeral cover. If we've got less than 15,000 neighborhood watches, and if you work out a funeral cover for 100 rand a person, it's 1.5 million rand. Because I'm just thinking all this training and equipment goes to invest, and then you know it's not sustainable because people. And I'm only asking that because I know that when I talk about neighborhood watches, people want to, some of the people is unemployed and they want to die in dignity. And what if they die on duty? So not when they're off duty, but what if they die on duty? Can they at least die in dignity? So I'm pursuing that question because I still believe we can get around it, at least to give them a funeral cover. So, Chair, I've actually asked a lot of questions here very strategically because they must answer 4, 5, and 6. So that's a lot of questions, but that's my 3 questions. Thank you very much.
you so much. On page 150 to 151, it speaks to the extra funding for LEAP. But I just wanted to find out, because I tried looking in the targets, I want to find out, is it to keep the amount of LEAP officers the same, or the amount of LEAP officers increasing? And if so, what is the difference for the amount in the book specifically? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my question is on page 135, the last paragraph. Under the point reference that says creating strategic safety partnerships and capacitate safety partners, such as community safety policing forums. Chair, I think this question, I want to align it to my initial question that I've asked at the opening remarks of the minister. Understanding our unique problem of safety and policing in the Western Cape, too much crime. How do we identify these partnerships? I don't want to be political at this platform, but I think the MEC would know. I will always make references that in the past your Bambananis were working. There was this walking bus that was working. Why is the department not revisiting some of the effective projects that were run even by the ANC government then? It's working. Less people were dying. It was proven then. And it yielded positive results, regardless of which party it was or even in the city. Why are we not using that? We are having a problem here of money. And there are programs that don't really need money. Some are voluntarily programs. Why don't we think of using programs as such that will help in saving lives? My second question to that is that how will this plan to create these strategic safety partnerships between the affected by the budget cut to the community police relations sub-program as shown on page 149? And what are the reasons for these cuts, Chair? My second question, Chair, is on page 136, under paragraph 2. Demands and changes in service. The department has identified several projects aligned to the Western Cape government policing priorities, which is growth for jobs and well-being. Now, Chair, in respect of the alignment of the department's projects with the growth for jobs policy priority of the provincial government, can the department just take us through the firing of 100 LEAP officers? I understand that they were failing competency tests. Chair, I think a few last year, it was Member Christians that was constantly asking on how these officers are being trained and the quality of their training. I'm asking myself, at this time, you are firing 100. Do you realize maybe they are not being trained well? Or what is it really about? If the training is not well, are you looking also into that training? Second to that, if you are firing 100, is there no way maybe to say we are giving you a chance to have a second chance? I don't know how to explain it, but you are now taking 100 out of work. And whereas you are saying this is our program and it's supposed to work, what could be the logic? Can you take us into confidence as to why firing 100 people at the same time? Could there be a problem in the project? Or enlighten us, because I'm not very comfortable on the way it's placed 100 at the same time. And we have never had a report of saying there has been 100 people fired at a time like this. Or is it maybe because we are going through elections? Can we be taken through to that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Barnes. Member Kasim, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I've got 3 questions. My first question relates to page 135. It is noted that that one of the core functions and main services of the department is to investigate service delivery complaints against SAPS, and this is done through the Western Cape Police Ombudsman. I'd like to know what has the department done to make sure that the Office of the Western Cape Police Ombudsman is more accessible, and to educate communities that this is where lack of service delivery complaints against the police should be lodged, And then can the minister, with that same question, assure this committee that every community in this province knows about this office of the ombudsman and its functions, and that they can easily lodge their complaints without any struggle? And after the office of the Western Cape police ombudsman has received those complaints against the police, lack of service delivery, where are those complaints taken to, and what becomes the next step after that? My second question relates to page 138. The department notes the increased budget allocation by more than 49 million. Can the department readily say that this increase will go to fighting crime in the province, especially high murder rates? And with that, what I see there is also that the budget increase allocation will go to the cost of living adjustments and the Western Cape Liquor Authority. My last question, on page 139 at paragraph 3 specifically, we are told about the partnership, or rather the collaboration between LEAP and the Learner Law Enforcement Office Training, which work together within the city of Cape Town in fighting to reduce the murder rates in the province. I'd like to know the following. Since the minister assumed office, has crime in the form of murder rates increased or reduced in the province? If it has increased overall, then what is the purpose of pumping taxpayers' money in something which is already failing? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Member Pretorius.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I assume there will be a second round of questions. I will start with 3 questions, maybe just some observations that are not necessarily questions. On page 141, the Security Framework Agreement, the tender closed on the 5th of this month. And I just want to know whether, in fact, the appointment has been made. And then on 142, the supply chain management, it's a bit concerning that that it's mentioned here that staff remains a challenge with a high turnover of SCM practitioners and limited skill availability in the province. What is the department doing to try and overcome that, being mindful of the shortage of skills? Then Member Bartman referred to the 151, the LEAP officers. All I want to know is maybe a matter of semantics, but why is it referred to as earmarked allocation? Why not just the allocation? And then as far as the Western Cape Liquor Authority is concerned, page 146, reference is made to public-based alcohol harms reduction strategies and interventions. How is that to be implemented? And references also made, this is one point, by the way, with 3 questions. I'm taking the liberty. References also made to an increase for the budget for client services walk-in centers. Has consideration been given to e-applications, as has been done in Gauteng, as we learned in the media over the past week? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Pretorius. Member Pretorius, just to say that for today, you are allowed to take as many liberties as you want, because on behalf of the committee, I'd like to wish you a very happy birthday. So for every round, you will get 2 extra questions as a gift from the chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to have a very long birthday. I hope you will join me.
Member Harris, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. On page 136, the demands and changes in services, it's obvious that the department's mandate would be to ensure that that you are being responsive in what you are doing. However, what all of us have observed since 2009 is that there's been a choice of weapons that used to be knives, which is now subsequently, unfortunately, intensified into firearms, which has become the choice of weapon. Within all of our communities, we hear the gunshots every day. What we would like to know, in terms of the review process, and especially in particular the proliferation thereof of firearms, that is obviously increasing our murder rate within our communities and therefore within the province at large. In all of the review processes, has the department somehow
try to think or find a mechanism or a plan to mitigate the usage of firearms within our communities. It's no longer a knife stab and at least the person can be saved. It's just one shot and the person is gone. So we would like to understand, in terms of your safety plan, have you looked at that? How do we mitigate that as a community? On the other point, Chairperson, on page 138, the last sentence on LEAP centers allocation. Now, we have obviously the thing of wanting to ensure that we improve on what we do. And like Honorable Barnes also said, is that this is not a situation where we can politicize. We are all confronted with such a matter at any given point, whether it's by way of hijacking, inbreaking, whatever it is. So we have now, as the province, you've decided to have these LEAP center allocations that will, to some degree, come with a safety plan, like we've had it last year in your stations. However, what we need to understand, we can always establish all of these mechanisms, but what are the budgets spent on it? Does it have budgetary implications? Whatever you need to do comes with budget, as you said, Minister, in your overview. The other, I'm asking a lot of questions today. My apologies. On 139, paragraph 3, which flows into the whole LEAP processes, is, and we note that you've spent quite a bit of money, which is R1 billion, on the safety plan that you've put there. But to what extent is it, as I said earlier, mitigating the aspect of crime? Because what we've noticed is that there's been an increase of 4.5% between 2019 and 2023, right? As well as the sexual offenses has also increased by 3.5% during the same period. Now, do we then say the plan that has been there, has that plan failed us? As communities, obviously, that is what we are saying. You have all of these beautiful plans, but the plan somehow is not helping, is not alleviating the aspect of the bringing in the LEAP officers, in whichever capacity you bring them in, to safeguard ourselves as citizens. And it has not, what we can observe, made the required impact. And when we are saying the impact, there needed to be a decrease in the rate, but what we've observed is an increase in the murder rate and sexual offenses. So what we need to understand is that what measures are in place to remedy this. And secondly, why are hotspot areas for LEAP deployments, why has it been reduced from your 13 to 11? We understand, as we said, there are budgetary constraints across not just the province, but within the country. But we need to be strategic in how we reprioritize our budget to ensure that it creates the required impact that we want to see happening. So I'll pause there for now, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now then hand over to the Minister, the HOD.
Thank you so much. I will be as brief as possible. I am joined by dedicated officials with the direction of the HOD. Will then also then allow some of our officials to answer some of the more specific questions. What can be observed? Unfortunately, we work on data and we work on what the actual crime stats indicate to us. I want to let your latter point, Member Harris, to Member Kasim's question, in that it's not only our own analysis. It's not only the analysis conducted by the South African Police Service, but it's also the analysis done by the Institute for Security Studies that actually confirms that since 2019, if we look at the murder rate, since 2019 up until the end of last year, the Western Cape was actually the only province that saw a reduction in murders per capita, and we definitely saw how priority provinces in our country, the Western Cape is flagged as a priority province. It's Western Cape, it is KZN, Eastern Cape and Gauteng. The Western Cape was the only one that actually saw a reduction in murders, and that is pegged at 1.8% reduction, or is it 1.4? I wouldn't want to mislead the committee, but it's in the 1 point category. And Member Harris, that 1.4 or 1.8% reduction is not what we want. We actually want to see a huge reduction, because when we talk about one murder is one murder too many, it's actually something that we genuinely mean, that I think many of the committee members mean as well. So between Gauteng, KZN, they saw double-digit increases over that same period, between 14 and 12%. The Eastern Cape also saw a single-digit increase of 9% over that same period. That's what the crime stats and the data is actually showing us. But I can understand the observation when we hear of gang-related murders, when there is a sentiment in many communities. But when we look at the data, according to our own analysis, that of the South African Police Service, but also an independent institute confirmed, the Western Cape was the only province that actually saw that reduction. But we, on this side of the aisle, will be the first to say, we know we have a long way to go. The Premier pegged it at a 50% reduction over a 10-year period. He wants to see the murder rate reduced by 50%. We definitely have a long way to go, but the data will show us that we are on the right track. If we look at the weapon of choice, and I will allow for the department to answer it in more specific terms, but to the committee, I'm so delighted that we are breaking certain narratives, Chairperson. And there's one narrative I'm maybe wanting to mention here now, but just in the last month, we provided our first reward based on the department's tip-off line, where if you call 021 466 0011 between our department and the South African Police Service, there's a reward of up to 5,000 Rand at any person that calls in a tip-off when they are aware of any illegal firearms in a community. We paid out that particular reward, and last week I was on my way to a particular area. I wouldn't want to mention the name, and it was not set up, Member Christian, but I was on my way to that community, and at 6:30 I get a call that there was a lady with a pink gown, Member Bartman, that also called in a tip-off that morning. And between SAPS, the Neighborhood Watch, the CPF, they actually got another gun. And we are now in the process of making sure that that particular person also has access to the reward. But that person told me, I don't even want the reward. I'm just going to donate it to the Neighborhood Watch. So we are seeing our anti-gang and our anti-firearm strategy that is in place, which is actually led by the South African Police Service. We have, in terms of our constitution, Section 205, where the mandate of the South African Police Service is essentially to prevent, to combat, and to investigate crime. They are needing to protect the inhabitants and the property in South Africa. We, as a province, would have oversight over that particular function and mandate that the South African Police Service has. We here want to see that that is actually leading to better service delivery, because we're wanting to strengthen the hand of the South African Police Service. But at the same time, we take our oversight role very seriously, because we are wanting to make sure that our capable and dedicated officers, that their morale is not reduced. and that they are able to ultimately fulfill the function of making sure that SAPS become a credible organization and one that is definitely moving towards becoming a professional police service. That's not to pass the buck. We have a constitution. The constitution, the lead agency, and I like your input to find the mechanism. There's 3 provinces that is discussing a new policing model that you might be aware of. Some here in the Western Cape have referred to it as devolution. Devolution have become a swear word because many times people say it's wanting to take power, takes it in, and Gauteng is now together with the Western Cape talking in similar terms about a new policing model where our policing needs and priorities can actually be taken into account in our province. As you would know, the national policy derives the national police policy via the national government is ultimately then landing in various provinces. We often say that our policing needs and priorities here in our province is not being taken into account. And in the new term, we'll be more than happy to come back, Chairperson, to present on the policing needs and priorities for Member Harris's benefit. If it comes to, but on the choice of firearms, we see that now it's currently between 50 and 60%, depending on the quarter. So your question is definitely spot on. On the LEAP stations, David and the team will also tackle that one. Our province, and as the MEC, I must sign off on the infrastructure needs and priorities for our province. We have always indicated that we require additional stations. In our province, we are delighted now that Makaza is finally ready and set to get its own station. That's a call from the Makaza community for more than 20 years. It was also then documented in the Kailicha Commission of Inquiry more than 10 years ago. The Tafelsig one is also going to be up and running by 2026. And any person that's listening to my voice will understand Mitchell's Plain. On the one hand, you have Lentig here. In the center, in town center, you have the Mitchell's Plain SAP station, and the Tafelsig station on the right will then alleviate some of the pressures that the other 2 stations are facing. So our LEAP stations is also where we have a base and we have deployment from a SAP station, but also from a LEAP center. I'm wanting to actually change that word and not just merely call it a station, but a center where deployment can happen. And we incorporate that with community organizations where there is already activity happening so that we can get the full benefit thereof. The budget cuts, and I know there was one question on why, what are the reasons for the budget cuts? Sadly, our equitable share is never granted here in the Western Cape. It's public knowledge now that in terms of population, Member Harris, in terms of the population, the budget that comes to the Western Cape and provinces are highly reliant on the equitable share, on what Treasury actually gives to the province. We are the 3rd most populated province, but in terms of the budget allocation, we will be number 5. So there's a clear discrepancy in that regard. And as a province, we have always highlighted our disagreement with the equitable share, but also definitely when we look at when there's budget cuts in here, it's a result of no proper planning, if I must be blunt, if it happens in here. If I look at how are we going to address the accessibility, and I appreciate that question on the Ombudsman's office, we will let the officials deal with that as well. But from my side, we have wanted to ensure that whenever we have our community engagements, whenever we have our district safety engagements or our policing needs and priorities engagements, the Western Cape Police Ombudsman will also be present and they will also engage the various stakeholders. We have also ensured that via that particular office, and Member Kasim, I appreciate the question because that particular office, which is a one of a kind in our province, and I have tabled a presentation at MINMEC to advocate that other provinces require a policing ombudsman as well. And in assuming the role, but all the complaints will be dealt with, and David and the HOD will answer that questions as well. But in a nutshell, you approach the Ombudsman's office, and once there is an investigation into a service delivery inefficiency, the Ombudsman will then have to come back with a verdict. And that verdict will either state that the matter has been substantiated or it has not been substantiated. In an event where a matter has been substantiated, which ultimately means that the evidence suggests that that particular SAPS officer neglected in his duty or in her duty and did not deliver the service that was required in terms of the oath and the constitution and the code of conduct that that SAPS officer took, there is remedial action. Member Kasim, we then monitor that remedial action. And in monitoring that remedial action, it can range from a disciplinary committee to a warning, to a written warning, a verbal warning, and ultimately up until dismissal, because we are wanting to ensure that where we have these investigations into service delivery inefficiencies, there must be accountability. In that regard, I trust I answered that one, but the HOD with her legal background will be able to pinpoint it in a more accurate way. Since my appointment, did a murder rate decrease? Most definitely. It's not me saying so. It's independent. It's an independent ISS, the SAPS, the data. But I would be the first one to say I can never take credit for that. I can never take credit for that because there's so many role players. It's definitely not me, and it is working with our LEAP, working with our SAPs, working with our neighborhood watchers, with our CPFs, and to latch onto the question on how we identify partners. We identify partners based on the Constitution, which is the first, which is our first point of call. So the Constitution would have a number of legislative bodies, and the Constitution, together with the Western Cape Community Safety Act, will also identify what is a legislative body. So, for example, in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, we would have the South African Police Service. It's a partner for the Western Cape, the lead agency to fight crime. That's a partner. Municipalities will also be partners. In our province, we have the metro together with district municipalities and a number of municipalities. When we look at the Western Cape Community Safety Act, neighborhood watchers would be a legislative partner because in terms of the Community Safety Act, neighborhood watchers are accredited. In terms of the SAPS Act, also CPFs will be a partner. When we look at other initiatives, which is flowing out of other departments, NPOs, it's all partners because those NPOs essentially, and for those that, and sorry if I'm going into detail with this, but I think it's very vital, for CPF to be established, a number of NGOs ultimately register at their particular SAP station. So in the area of Khayelitsha, there is 5 or there's 20 community organizations that is linked to that particular SAP station. All those persons that is nominated by the respective NGO or from the community can make themselves available for the CPF. The CPF is then the voice of the community to ultimately go back to a community, engage the community, and foster good working relationships as well. So the stakeholders are so broad, member bands, and it is documented in terms of the Constitution. And if I look at the Bambanani one, I was helped by Bambanani at Carradale Primary growing up in Rocklands. And I fondly remember Bambanani. And I think I was a little bit out of hand when I noted correspondence that in 2007, when the Bambanani was actually stopped. The Bambanani has taken different forms now. Forms in terms of neighborhood watches. Many of the Bambanani people are actually part of neighborhood watches. Many of the previous persons that were in Bambanani was also CPF members. But it has evolved. It has evolved also in terms of our school resource officers. So there's a number of how the province have evolved, but this was before the time that the political party I represent became the government here when Bambanani was officially cancelled. Maybe we can talk to that other party that cancelled the Bambanani before our time, and we can have that discussion. But the LEAP officers, I think I want to answer the one on the LEAP officers. Member Barnes, you, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but you said cutting the LEAP officers and it's now an election year. It's now an election year. Anyone listening to my voice now will say, imagine you cut 100 LEAP officers in an election year. That is a risk. It's a risk, because we have had on the City of Cape Town, also to my offices, where people marched because people were aggrieved, because 100, and it's not 100, it is 66. I spoke to the media because they said 100, it's not 100, it's 66 LEAP officers. Their contracts were terminated. And it's a risk, Member Barnes. So I would never want to see something as a risk and play politics. Doesn't make sense. We stick with the law. So we have given them 3 chances. I can confirm 3 chances was given in terms of the requirements that they had to meet. So once you become a LEAP trainee, there's a set of requirements that needs to be met. And that includes your fitness, it includes your firearm competency, but also your licensing to drive the vehicles. Those are some of the requirements. And I think it's, from our side, we always want to ensure that once we send any LEAP officer to a Nova Park or to Khayelitsha or to Harare, we can never risk sending someone that does not meet the requirements. I would never want to go to an auntie or to an uncle's house and say to that person, I'm so sorry for your loss, when that particular person's life is in constant danger working in our priority areas. So definitely we are wanting to ensure that there's excellence in LEAP, but that same excellence we strive for actually in the South African Police Service. That once there's persons in the college that undergoes training in the South African Police Service, if they do not meet the requirements, it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate if they do not meet the requirements. It's the same process in the South African Police Service. And with LEAP, we have wanted to maintain that level of excellence. And it would be heartbreaking to send someone that doesn't meet the requirements into Harare, into Mitchell's Plain, into a murder hotspot, and they risk their life. So we are definitely wanting to always ensure that our LEAP officers are fully trained, firearm competent, have the necessary license to ensure that they can ultimately do the job. And I can confirm 3 chances were provided for each and every trainee that comes into the program to become a LEAP officer. We are protecting the current amount of LEAP officers, but I will let HOD answer that one in more detail. Member Christians, I'm definitely not wanting to disregard the neighborhood watch question. But maybe I must field it. But HOD, if you want to latch on in terms of the neighborhood watch question. I know that you have noted an amount of 1.5 million rand. We have actually done an assessment on 70 rand. And our 70 rand, I know you mentioned, came to 1.5 million rand on 100 rand for the X amount that you quoted. That's per month. So the 70 rand comes at 1.05 million in our own assessment, but there's a number of criteria that would have to be met. The department will be open to the Auditor General, considering that the turnover that you have highlighted, and to get a budget of roughly 12 million would be a delight to implement such a program, but the turnover will be problematic. the paying for someone that is in the neighborhood watch, and when they arrive, we would have to put measures in place that if someone joins neighborhood watch today, what would be policy in terms of when they can kickstart such an initiative to be part of it. Also, once someone leaves on the 20th and leaves to another province for whatever reasons, and we have paid a 70 Rand over for that particular month, the Auditor General will then hold us to account in terms of wasteful expenditure or irregular expenditure in that regard. So it's such a tricky proposal, but I would be delighted if we obtain the funding in order to ensure that we can provide those additional help to neighborhood watchers. I come from the neighborhood watch, and I've seen how the resources that we provide, the training that we provide, and the resources, training, and the accreditation we provide. Maybe I can change the word uniform, but I love those jackets that we have provided, and we have provided jackets and a number of other items. Actually, I don't know if we must change it and not say uniform, but it's a 3-in-1 jacket that many in the committee may have seen. Our neighborhood watches are branding now. It's black and white. And I've not taken a 3-in-1 jacket personally, because I've always maintained I'll only take a neighborhood watch jacket if all of our neighborhood watches have jackets. But we have given jackets and some other equipment, so it's not just the bib and t-shirts. My jacket is 3-in-1. It's baie quite. So I'll.
Thank you, Minister. I think maybe I should start to say the lady in the pink gown. It's definitely not Honorable Member Botman. No, just in case.
No, this narrative is about the lady in the pink gown.
I also promised the chair this morning that I will not field all the questions, just in case he's tired of my voice, and that I will be deferring to the colleagues. So just in terms of the service delivery risks that Honourable Member Christians mentioned, I think our biggest risk as a department would be the non-filling of our vacancies. We currently, and that will impact on all the programs and our service delivery as a department. Due to cost containment measures, we had approximately 127 vacancies. We had reprioritized to 43 posts. And then when the DPSA directive was issued, we had to cut further. And we're looking at 9 to 10 posts only that we can fill. So that is definitely going to impact not having the human resources in terms of our police inspections, etc., impact on our ability. I think our staff have been wonderful in terms of accepting reassignments across the department and being willing to step up to assist us in order to meet our safety plan priorities and objectives and our constitutional mandate as well. In terms of our organizational structure, we have been working very closely with the organizational development. We've signed off our service delivery model. We're at the point of signing off our macro structure as well. We're looking at, for example, program 2 and 3, where David Kutsia is the chief director, being a more regionalized model. So we are more responsive to the needs of the community members there. I just want to field some of the other questions, and then I'm going to hand over. So I'm not sure if David wants to add on the funeral cover and the safety partnerships. If in terms of answering on the quality of the training and us looking into that, Minister has covered the Western Cape Police Ombudsman. The Ombudsman has his own also marketing strategy and communication plan, where he also creates awareness other than joining us at our engagements as well. In terms of his complaints, Minister has covered that. The Ombudsman office also reaches out to the SAPs for SAPs to respond to matters if they are also investigating those matters as well. Just in terms of the security framework, I am going to ask Acting Chief Director Julian Lutz to cover that. the CFO in terms of the supply chain management, high turnover, which is definitely also a risk for us, but we did put one of the posts forward for concurrence of the Premier in terms of the DPSA directive. The Premier has given us permission to continue with that recruitment process as well. Just in terms of the earmarked allocations, that's a ring-fenced allocation. So we are unable to utilize those funds for any other purpose other than what it has been identified for. And that is our LEAP stations, our LEAP chrysalis expansion, the EPWP conditional grant, for example, that we received from national government as well. And Honourable Member Christian said has also impacted on our risks. The grant that has been received from the national government is reduced to only 2.7 million. In previous years, we used to get up to over 4 million. I think one year we got 7 million, if I remember correctly, over 7 million. And although we meet all the requirements, we're very diligent, and that grant we utilize to be able to pay EPWP stipends. To that grant, we add our own money of about 24 million to pay for the chrysalis graduate work opportunities, etc., thus contributing to the growth for jobs. In terms of the Liquor Authority, there is, the harm reduction strategy. We are busy working with the Liquor Authority now and leading on the amendments to the Liquor Act. That will address some of the alcohol harms related issues that we face in the province. We're looking at minimum unit pricing for alcohol, trading hours, and also the Liquor Authority has increased their operations. In the past, the department had funded their junior liquor inspectors, so there's increased operations in the priority areas, so the operations are aligned to the safety plan, to the murder stations, and that allocation has now been included as part of their baseline. So those inspectors are part of the normal operations of the Liquor Authority. I think I'm going to hand over then. I think, David, you probably took notes in terms of some of the issues. If I can hand over to you and then Gillian to cover the security framework, CFO, the supply chain issues. Minister has touched on the rewards for illegal firearms. We are currently leading a firearms harms reduction strategy together with the National Prosecuting Authority. And David may want to add on that, and David on the LEAP Centres allocation as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Member Christians, like you, I'm also very passionate about the volunteerism, and I've been in the department now for 23 years, and I've explored many avenues to try and realize that insurance of the volunteer. And every time we hit a legal obstacle, as you said, if you take 70 Rand, it actually works out 10,000 members is then 8.4 million. But now, and I'm not to be dismissive, but I've actually now counted the number of deaths so far I can recall now is we had a Bambanani person that died on duty at the station way back when we still had Bambanani. Then there have been 2 Neighbour Watch members that were involved. One died of a heart attack at home, and the other person died on the way on to book on duty. A car drove into a group of ladies, and the one lady passed away. And then we've had the CPF chairperson shooting. So in the 23 years I've been in the department, I know of the 4 incidents. And then it also becomes, so normally what also happens is that if there's a death or so, they do write to the department, we do get informed, and then they ask like for a donation and stuff. So the HUD has the accountability to look at each individual case and then decide on a donation. So if we look at from a risk perspective, it does not justify 8.4 million Rand, and I'm looking at the whole province. So yes, but I also feel for it, and so then there was also a question on page 149 and 148. They both speak to the program secretariat, and it was about, is that money going to fight crime? So the Secretariat has got the monitoring and evaluation, which is then the visits to police stations, looking at effectiveness. Then they got the safety promotion that basically deals with the LEAP, the K9 rural safety units. Then it's the policy and research unit, and then community police relations, which is the CPF and neighborhood watch and community safety forums. So that whole vote program 2 and 3 is basically intensely involved in fighting of crime, and that whole 73 million rand budget. It shows the reduction from the 75, but as we've indicated, we've gone to look at efficiency, and the money that is cut is not service delivery affected. It's basically, we looked at expenditure. So that's about travel, subsistence allowance and stuff. So it's not line items that are spent to fight crime. So we are very aware of that. Then the question, I was part of Bambanani. I was part of the establishment. Bambanani focused mostly on the elderly. And then the elderly, it was not youth. So what has happened is that there were at one stage 800 Bambanani members that were posted at gates, looking at stations on safety. That over the years decreased and became 600 and then 400, and then it was actually phased out because the shift that was made was to youth. Okay, so that's why we went into Christmas. So what happens, we at this currently stage have got about 940 youth trained at Chrysalis, then put on an expanded public works stipend, and then placed either in SAPS or in a hospital or in a clinic. And then we also got a peace officer program where we train the youth as peace officers. They get deployed to municipalities, and we like now currently busy with Beaufort West, Breda Valley, Langeberg, but all the 18th of March, Overberg, Cape Gullis will be launched. So that's also youth trained as peace officers deployed on a stipend, and we're looking now at, so far there's about a 31% uptake that youth get taken up into permanent post. Now also, the minister did touch on the LEAP. So the LEAP is that the agreement we have with the City of Cape Town, we pay for fully trained, competent LEAP officers. So it means that they must have firearm competency and they must be able to drive. So the city's got a requirement, you may have a license, but they also go under test you to see if you can drive. So what we've picked up is there's another group now. And as the minister said, they got 3 chances to become firearm competent. But we noted in a group, they've been deployed at malls. Okay, why? So we can't use them functionally. So there's a group that gets placed at malls and some at schools that they don't need a firearm. And we've picked up that they now technically don't actually want to be deemed firearm competent or have a driver, because then they have to go to the high risk areas. So there's another grouping now that's been, is the ones that have not passed the driver competency. So also what happened in COVID, there was a group of drivers or persons with licenses recruited, but they could not be tested in COVID period. And now they have been tested and they are failing now the driver competency. And they get, as the minister said, they get 3 to 4 chances to pass. And then if they fail to pass that competency, then it's, they start the process of dismissal. But that investment in that officer is not necessarily, they end up normally in the security field. There's actually a very high demand for that trained in private security. So they do get taken up in other levels. And to see, no, fine. God. Okay. Member Harris, yes, you noted the choice of firearm as it is And the HUD has mentioned the firearms strategy, but it's something that's also weird that the last time there's actually now become a category for intimidation or not in it's, imitation, yeah, firearms. There's such a lot of firearms that look like the real thing, but the imitation, and they've been used, we find, in these extortion cases, like when persons are walking or they are intimidated in their homes. So there's a whole new like nuance around this imitation of firearms. And so Amanda and the National Prosecuting Authority, they have actually sat down and developed a firearm strategy. It has been presented to the prof joints, that's SAP's structure, and they've accepted. So the implementation of that firearm strategy is taking place. It's part of our anti-gang work stream that we have. That is also then to train SAPs and then to get firearms removed out of the community. So the Firearm Control Act is very specific, and we are really focused on that. And you can also see in the stats of LEAP that there's a strong focus on firearm confiscations. I think I saw this morning there are over 500 firearms that have already been confiscated by LEAP. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, and then as the minister also said that we have 11 LEAP priority areas, but then we got a reaction team that are deployed at Steenberg and Hanover Park, so that actually effectively gives you 13 LEAP priority areas, and then we have 5 in the rural areas. So LEAP has not been reduced. What has happened now that because of those dismissals, the LEAP numbers are actually now at the lowest point they have been, but we are now in the process of filling those vacancies and recruiting LEAP officers and training again. So, but we meet on a regular basis with the city to discuss alternative strategies and look at the deployment and how we supplement SAPs and then link to the crime pattern and crime threat analysis of that local station. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, if I can just share some good news. I think yesterday colleagues would have been very alarmed at what was happening in Mitchell's Plain with regards to the shootings and the gang violence. I have received an update this morning that 2 firearms was confiscated together with 2 arrests. That particular arrest is of a known gang member. So we are definitely seeing when communities are feeling the brunt and the fear. 2 known gang members now have been arrested, and we will definitely from our side, Member Harris, for example, make sure that we monitor those cases, because even when a firearm is confiscated via our strategy and our interventions and engagements with the NPA, we always want to ensure that those cases actually go via the court route. We would never want a scenario where the gun has been retrieved and now the case is not being followed through, because one gun could potentially contribute 12 to 15 murders. So we're wanting to take guns off our streets. And Member Harris, since LEAP's inception, Member Barnes will be able to confirm that over 500 firearms have also been taken. So it's something that we care about together with the South African Police Service, because we want to rid our communities of these illegal firearms.
Thank you very much. With regards to the question related to the Security Framework Agreement, we have not made an appointment of a successful service provider as yet. The department is still busy processing or working through the bids that we have received. So there are certain evaluation processes that needs to be completed. However, the intention is to have appointments made by the 1st of April 2024. With regards to the Western Cape Liquor Authority, the question relating to the e-license ability to apply online. An e-license portal is available for applications to be done online and is currently being used. And then also with regards to the walk-in center, it's a client service center where in-person assistance is being provided with regards to registration, creating profiles, etc. So that's that I can add in terms of those questions. I'll hand over to the CFO to speak to the supply chain management issue in terms of the turnaround in terms of the posts, and if there's anything that I've missed in terms of the Liquor Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, supply chain management is easily the most regulated function within the larger financial management area in government overall. And with all of these regulation, what happens is that the staff that operate in the area, they become very focused and very specialized. And it's this specialization that makes them very marketable, whether it be within other departments in the province, local municipalities, or even national departments. They become very sought after and prized recruitment appointments. So within the department, what's happened is that we do for the new recruits, when we get them in at the lower rungs of the function, we do job rotation and mentoring with them, with the more senior staff. And then also over the last, let's say, 3 or 4 financial years, up to about 90% of the staff currently working within supply chain have received bursaries to further their own studies within that area of speciality. And in so doing, we're creating maybe the next generation of specialists in the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those inputs, members. We are way over our time for a break, so we're going to take a 15-minute break. It's now 10:22. If we can be back here by 25 to 1:45 for the latest, if your coffee is too hot. Let's say 1:45. In the absence of any further questions, Minister, I'll hand over to you and the HOD for closing remarks.
Chair.
I don't see any hands. Member Pretorius, we'll hand over to you, and then we'll go to Member Windvogel. Member Pretorius, can I just check, is your question a follow-up?
It's not a follow-up, it's the next round, I hope, Chair.
Perfect. So if you can just hold on, then Member Christians will then ask his follow-up, and then we'll go over to you, and then Member Windvogel, and then Member Barnes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now, just to just to have a final remark on this, the funeral cover. Just now, I understand the challenges with the Auditor General and risk, and I understand all that. What I maybe want the department to do, because I still believe that, and I know what the gentleman has said about the amount of deaths, but when I'm on the ground, people are very reluctant to join the neighborhood watch because of danger areas. People are, it's there's a lot of problems why they don't join. I was the other day, I can't remember, Curls over somewhere out. And that's why I speak from an informed base. I'm not just making, demands or suggestions, but I see all of that. But what I'm trying to say is maybe what you should do, maybe have a survey under the current, some of the, under the current neighborhood watches, and say, listen, will you, because it's, like I said, it's a carrot. You'll stay longer because of X, because people join people. And maybe if you can give us the turnover rate of neighborhood watches, because, they're accredited and then they're not accredited, and then you have problems with it. So I'm just saying, maybe you might just do that survey, because I've done just, different areas, engage them and so on. Because we all know they're doing sterling work. 5 o'clock in the morning, they're up walking with people to the bus stops and all of that. They're doing sterling works. And I think that's one of the ways that we can curb crime, because it's people staying in the community. And also, I think there'll be more whistleblowers, there'll be more of those type of things. But if they just know, because somebody said to me, if I should die, who's going to take care of my this? Who's going to take care of that? Now, we're not giving them a life cover, as I said previously, but a funeral cover. So if you can maybe do a survey under your neighborhood watches and maybe see what that result is. And but I still believe, for me, it's a carrot, and it's also, you will have neighborhood ones a lower number of turnover when it comes to neighborhood watches, because there's something in that for them. And yes, Minister, and it's right. It's for the year, it's most probably, I don't know, 8 to 9 million rand. Thank you very much. So just a consideration, and then I know, I've done my job, and I'm speaking on behalf of some of the neighborhood watches. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. If you can keep that consideration in mind when you respond to the next round as well. Then we'll go to Member Pretorius. Then after that, Member Windvogel, and then Member Barnes. This is with the new round. So Member Pretorius, Windvogel, Barnes, and then Christians.
Thank you, Chair. Much appreciated. Chair, I wasn't able to attend the PNP report tabling on the 23rd of February. I'm not going to ask any questions, but I've read the summary from the Parliamentary Monitoring Group, so I won't be asking questions on rural safety and violence protection unit, etc., etc. What I do want to ask about, one is a very serious matter, and that's the whole issue of the mental health of the officers in the service. And I'm sorry, unless it's a gross oversight from my side, I don't see anything in the annual report or the budget referring to that side of the workforce. And I think it's of utter importance. I remember when we had the budget vote on health and wellness the other day, the focus on mental health as a service that the department needs to provide but also looking after the mental health of the staff. And I would just like to know, I noticed that 770 officers left. I don't know whether it's, although it says here it's through natural attrition. What is the state and what support is there as far as mental health is concerned in the department? And then secondly, during the riots last year in Swellendam, there was very poor reaction time by the reaction units, or POPs as we popularly know them, coming from Paul. In fact, when they finally arrived, the burning and the looting had been done. And I know there were some moves afoot to consider the placement of a reaction unit closer between George and Swellendam, maybe in the Overberg somewhere. I would just like to know, is that something that is being considered? And obviously, if so, if there is budget for it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Baie dankie. Agbare Windvogel.
Baie dankie, Chair. My question is on page 144. Point of reference, Provincial Secretariat for Police Service. The budget cuts for this program is noted with concern, as it will surely weaken the function of the Provincial Secretariat. What is the rationale for this reduction? And secondly, what are the reasons for budget cuts to category C municipalities as reflected on page 145? When you cut the budget, did you first do a risk assessment, and what mitigations did you put in place? Because of the cuts, there will almost be negative consequences. Then lastly, Chair, on page 146, point of reference, Office of the HOD. I want to understand what is the reasons for the cuts in the budget for the Office of the HOD. And can you provide, or can the department provide clarity on the position of the HOD who requested a demotion to achieve director position? And why did she request this demotion? And who's handling the HOD's responsibilities now? That the HOD is a chief director. Is the department looking to recruit a new HOD, or will she continue holding two positions? I just need clarity, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Member Barnes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, my question is on page 140. And number 3, under the outlook for the coming financial year. That last paragraph where it says the department has developed strong strategic partnerships with relevant role players in safety room. The accreditation, support and training of neighborhood watchers, monitoring of police insufficiencies through the WCPO and CWB program, including support. That's where I am, including support to municipalities through the development of safety plans, K9 units, and rural LEAP officers. My question, Chair, let me start there with the rural LEAP officers. If maybe the department can give us an explanation as to what is meant by this rural LEAP units, and if, where is that based? Is it through the whole Western Cape in all regions? And if so, what's the how does it function as well? Second to that, Chair, also on the financial side, how much is spent on this, and what impact does it have? Lastly, Chair, on the same question, I want to add on to the support to municipalities. Are all municipalities getting an allocation for the safety plan, or is it for everyone, or how does this work? And the safety plans of them, I'm sure that you are funding them, but what is expected? What outcome are you expecting? Are you expecting to align it with bigger safety plan. And yeah, I would want to understand the operations of it, because if there's finances in it, where and how is it going and how much? I have interest into that detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Christians?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to go back to, I don't know if it was fully answered. I think the HOD did answer some of it, but the department is, of course, looking at, with the tight budget, I'm talking about Chrysalis graduates. We know it works well. We've been there a couple of times to the graduations, and it's been broadened out to other areas, and I mean that is really a successful story when you engage those graduates and you see them. Even if you come into the building, you see them. And I've asked the minister before, and you have this, I don't know what you call it, subdivisions in the different areas, because that is really a success story for many youngsters that was, hopeless. So just give me, it's reduced Christian graduates on the service delivery risk, and that is a successful program. And it's and another department is doing all that it can, but maybe just give us some sort of idea, the impact that it makes, but also give us idea that what is the plan of the department going forward because of this. It also reduces crime, of course. We're talking about crime, reduces crime because those youngsters, in case not recruited by gangs, but now the department has intervened. The other thing is this also reprioritization. The K9 unit is also very successful, very, very successful. And, so what is the status of the K9 unit at the moment? I know, it's N7 comes from the Northern Cape block and those type of things. We know that. So that's also very successful, but still, and there's great successes. So I'm just looking at, that is tools, the K9 unit and other units, but the K9 unit was very successful. The Chrysalis graduates very successful, and we're talking about reducing crime, and we rather stop the guys coming into the province with drugs with the K9 unit. So what is the status on that? And the Chrysalis Academy graduates, I know department is a small department, don't have a lot of money, and you must reprioritize, but that is working at the moment. I'm going to park it there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll hand over to the Minister, HOD, and the other officials.
Thank you so much. Member Christians, we definitely take note of the survey because we would want to properly consult and engage our neighborhood watch members. I want to state for the record that we are so appreciative of the work that neighborhood watch members are doing, the task that they have undertaken. You have made mention of standing at the bus stop. And we have literally seen how in various communities, muggings at a particular bus stop because there was insufficient light or there was a known gang house close to that particular bus stop. And since neighborhood watch members patrolling that particular areas, a lady that used to be mugged more than 4 times, 4 phones was taken off. I spoke to her personally and she said to me, I see ladies and men here every morning from 5 o'clock. So thank you also for your engagements with neighborhood watchers. So we'll definitely want to ensure that we have that engagement, David, to ensure that we can take that particular one further. We are also, and I'm very adamant about the following point, which I have raised with business. So we are wanting to actively pursue the whole of government, the whole of community, and business actually fitting into that particular role. We have seen in instances where big companies have helped government and by extension have helped residents. So I would be more than happy to even approach those companies against the backdrop of a reduced budget where companies can actually come on board and partner with us as well. That is what I'm definitely wanting to drive. I went to a company in the entertainment space, and I went to say thank you. I went to go and say thank you to the producers of Saint Oyster, for example. And I said, thank you that you have the storyline about neighborhood watches. You have 4 million people across our country that watches Saint Oyster. It's a market. And as you would know, I made an appearance in that particular show in December. And we see either on our website, more and more people are interested because the bibs, watches, is being used in particular which drive the narrative of that people need to get involved, etc. And I want to go to other areas as well to say, how can a company, and I wouldn't want to name companies, we know who are the funeral policy companies, but I would want to approach them even because we saw one particular service provider help our country and our province during COVID. And that's the cell phone technology company. So I would even want to go and see how companies can help. Actually, if we are able to set that up, considering that we have a good story of people taking up responsibility in their particular community. So we will definitely consider that. In terms of the question on mental well-being, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask the department to answer the one part, but I would want to cross-reference it with the work that we are doing in our oversight in terms of the South African Police Service. Something personal happened 18 months ago. And since 18 months ago, where a SAPS officer that was assigned to the office that I'm currently holding had an incident, we drastically made sure that discussions, not only at a level with the police commissioner and top management, but also in districts occur in terms of employee health and wellness. We have made sure that interventions at a local station, filtering up to the entire district around the well-being of our SAPS officers. It's twofold currently, Member Pretorius. On the one hand, that SAPS members would have medical aid, they would have resources available to them in order to undergo any form of treatment or any form of intervention or counseling that they want to do, but also internally, in terms of employee health and wellness, which is an actual unit within the South African Police Service. We have had discussions with support services to ensure that that unit is properly capacitated. Between the PC and myself, we have had discussions around campaigns to break the stigma attached to going for help in terms of employee health and wellness within the South African Police Service, because we want to break those stigmas that is often attached to SAPS members not wanting to go for debriefing or not wanting to go for counseling because of the stigma. So your question is definitely aligned to what we have been doing in that space from an oversight role, because we deeply care for how our SAPS officers are facing certain challenges and what they see, witness, and experience on a daily basis. But from our side, the question was very specific, HOD, on what we are doing for employee health and wellness. On the reaction units and the placements, and I would want to answer this question in twofold and link it back to the K9 unit comment and question that Member Furlan made. Member Barnes, we have noted the need in order to step up. And those engagements was also internally with the department, with the Premier, but we also had those engagements with the South African Police Service. So where we have our rural safety units that work alongside our K9 units, it's currently in the Mossel Bay area. It's currently in our Swartland area, which covers the West Coast, but also in the Overstrand municipality, which covers the Overberg. Those particular agreements are set up in order to ensure that they can do cross-boundary work within a particular district. We have personally seen when a certain occurrence happens in Hermanus, which covers the Overstrand, but it spills over to an area like Swellendam. That's particular unit can be utilized across the district as well. But what we have in terms of wanting to establish that and broaden it is definitely what we are looking for towards the outer years. So the rural safety units have seen tremendous successes. I have attempted to, as often as possible, communicate on it. And I will make sure I'll speak to the office to ensure that we can circulate some of those successes via the committee. Member Christians made a remark on the canine. The one that sticks out is the cache of firearms found in the Swartland area, which was as a result of the work of the relevant canine and safety unit in partnership with the South African Police Service, confiscating more than 17 firearms, but also guns and ammunition. So the rural safety units is predominantly working in those 3 particular districts. But what we have done in terms of the peace officer training, and David will be able to give an outline of each and every municipality that we have helped, where we train and capacitate those peace officers. We then place them on a 1-year work opportunity within that particular municipality. And part of that agreement is to ensure that the municipality can take up those particular officers that we have placed in the areas, but we have a detailed list that David is able to share upon. So what we provide member bonds is that from the Western Cape Safety Plan, each and every district will have an allocation, and each and every municipality within a district is able to submit a business plan to the relevant district. And depending on the discussions happening in that particular council, the funding will then be allocated. We have tried not to be too descriptive to them. We have given input. We have broad frameworks on what we want to achieve, but we do know even in the rural safety areas, there's different needs. A need in Swellendam where Member Windvogel is might be slightly different to a need where Member Barnes is. And part of that need is, for example, in one of the districts, they have utilized funding to ensure that they can tackle the scourge of drug abuse, which still speaks to safety. So we will still allow a district to implement interventions based on the business plans that the municipality ultimately forwards to the district. I don't think we are at liberty by law to transfer directly to the one municipality, but we do it via the district. Obviously, the metro is a metropolitan city, but we will let David answer that one. And the district safety cut, the district safety plan, and the cuts in that space. I personally highlighted the risk of it could potentially impact working relationships, because we have fostered valuable working relationships with all of the districts, and to now be in a position where we need to cut, we have also been open with them to say that if we provide a R1, we would want the district to also provide a R1 towards a particular program. So those are discussions that is ongoing. And like the Western Cape government has stepped in, we are also asking municipalities in rural areas in your Swellendams or wherever to also come and budget towards their particular safety initiatives. David will be able to answer that in more detail. I will allow the HOD to answer the question that directly relates to her. I would want to say for the record that where we are going and the discussions that myself and the HOD and the Premier had, it's in line of where we want to see this department and where we want to see this province. And it's actually because of the HOD's innovative thinking that we are currently where we are now. But I will allow the liberty to answer that particular question so that you can hear straight from her. Okay? Yes, so that you can hear it straight from her. So the Chrysalis graduates, we will answer that particular question, and this latches on because I visited two business engagements already. One business engagement set up by Chrysalis. There was one that I couldn't attend, but Chrysalis is also having engagements with various business business sector persons to see how businesses can also come on board to help and assist. I am of the view that it is the initiative of the Western Cape government and that we need to put money aside so that young persons, like you have indicated, sometimes the most vulnerable, have the opportunity. There's people on this committee that have pushed the envelope by wanting to make sure that they are even helping young people get to the training and to the testing, etc. So, Member Bartman, thank you so much for what you are doing in that space. But we are wanting to have those discussions to see how we can actually approach business and say that we are providing, if it's 28 million, social development is providing an amount as well, but we want businesses to also contribute because these young people go back into a community and actually positively contribute. And those are ongoing conversations. And I've made it my mission to even personally be part of those breakfasts, and business breakfast engagements, corporate brunch, and we've actually had great appetite, not only for the breakfast, but great appetite in terms of businesses wanting to get involved. We see quite good attendance in that regard. So the plan moving forward for Chrysalis is in line on how we can ensure that if we raise funds, and the trust has been set up in that way. So it's not set up like the Western Cape Liquor Authority, not an entity in terms of law, but it's a trust, the NPO, that actually can source its own funding as well. And we are wanting to broaden that as a way forward. I think if any business person is listening to me now and they listen to Member Christians and they want to get involved and plow back into our community, they must please reach out to us so that we can see how we can get more of our hubs and more of our graduates in. K9 unit question, David will cover, and where our safety rural units are. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Maybe I should start the question about myself, which we spoke about during the break, Honorable Chair, but I think it's important maybe for the record. So it is not, I don't see it as a demotion, but it is a redeployment that I requested from the Premier in consultation with the Minister. Our Chief Director, Security Risk Management position, as you probably know, Mr. George, who is the CEO of the Liquor Authority, held that position, and we haven't filled it since then. I requested redeployment for the remainder of my term. This year is currently 5 years that I've actually been in the position of HOD, including my acting appointment. So my contract does end next year, at the end of next year. I requested redeployment to that position for the remainder of my term. The Premier has taken into consideration the service delivery needs of the department and where we are going in terms of our strategic objectives of the Western Cape government, as well as the department. The component is the lead on occupational health and safety as it relates to other Western Cape government departments. We are responsible for security-related services, the question on the security framework. We have to advise all departments on their security-related matters across the province. And then also the physical security that you see in the CBD is the security we've put in place. The team is also assessed, and we have said it before, the IT platforms of all municipalities. We want to create one platform where the Department of Mobility is also involved, local government, from a disaster management perspective. So the Premier, after some consideration and convincing, indicated that I could move into the position, and we therefore have advertised the HOD position, which was advertised and closed, I think, on the 19th of February. I will be taking up the new position on the 1st of April, and therefore also leaving the colleagues to feel some of the answers. I will still be in the department. I did indicate to the Premier, I believe that we have set a firm foundation for the department with our 15th consecutive clean audit outcome. I think we scored the highest in the added value survey as part of the culture assessment of our staff. We scored 71%, and program 4, the one I'm going to move into, scored 81%. So I will be there to assist whoever comes in as the HOD, but I would be unable to focus on both. And for me, that is an exciting new, what can I say, initiative that we are putting in place, new innovation, as Minister has said, and to be part of that for the next remaining term of my contract. So, Member Van Berkel, I hope I covered what I said during the break, but I don't see it as a demotion, but just doing something exciting for the remainder of my term as well. I will continue to serve the Western Cape government and the department to the best of my ability. Thank you. I will now leave it to the Honourable Chair, to the other colleagues to field the questions. Thank you. If I may just add, sorry, Honourable Member, you asked about the position. So I think, yeah, may want to indicate where we are in the process. I think it's at the shortlisting stage. And then Chief Director David Kutsia will be acting from the 1st of April. We're hoping that the post will be filled maybe within the next 2 months. Also, and then in terms of the cuts, as Minister just reminded me, in my office, the head of office post is vacant, and it's one of the posts that we will be advertising now, therefore the cuts because of the vacancy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Member Pretorius asked about the Swellendam reaction unit. That was something that was in planning, but we had to put it on hold now with when the new fiscal term came in hold. But we have actually sat as a department and we have looked at how do we protect the whole province, 7 million citizens. So all additional 18 municipalities, and that we bring in like what the rural leap is. But now maybe we must explain. We got a term what we call peace officer. Okay, so the peace officer is person trained for a very short period by the city of Cape Town, but he does not a firearm. Then he goes on a 12-month contract to the municipality where he gets further in-service training and gets warden training, gets traffic training. So currently, I mentioned earlier, the municipalities, we are currently busy with the process now. Cape Gullis is doing their launch of their 20 members. Beaufort West is in recruiting. Breda Valley is also now earmarked for this training. Langeberg and Matsikama. What we've already done is Knysna, Mosselbaai, Hessequa, Drakensberg, and George. So 10 of the 24 municipalities have already got these peace officers, but really, and they do a lot of the bylaw stuff. So the idea is that out of this group, you would then progress to a rural leap. That's then where you get trained, where you have firearm competency and your powers actually increase. So that's the growth path we see. So a lot is also even comes from neighborhood watch. So neighborhood watch could move into the peace officer. And it's a good example, like the previous group we trained in Knysna. All the were either taken up into traffic or law enforcement into permanent posts. So it's I feel it's a very valuable program. And in the rural leap, which we have piloted now, is in, as a minister said, Swartland municipality and Oversight municipality. The cost for those 2 units is 9.9 million. But the municipality contributes about 50% to the cost of running the unit. So we basically fund the establishment and get it going. But as it progresses, the municipality must be able to take over more of the cost. The same as well with the K9 units we've got in the Swartland, Oversight and Mossel Bay. But then also again, we pay about 3 million rand to maintain, and then the other costs the municipality has to carry. So one of the criteria we look at when we establish is what's a municipality's ability. We know we need to establish a K9 unit in Beaufort West because that's an income entry point, and so but we are really finding it difficult to get that off the ground. It's been on our radar for a long time, but also with our budget cuts, we have to look like where do we prioritize. So last year, the minister went on a safety plan. He went to every district municipality. So we as province, we presented our provincial strategy. Then the district presented its safety plan strategy, and each municipality then presented their safety plan. So we looked, there was a whole exercise. So we looked at the alignment of the municipality to the district to the province. Now, unfortunately, there were 3 or 2.5 municipalities which did not participate. And Theewaterskloof and Beaufort West did not submit any safety plan. And that's one of the criteria. So the safety plan is money we give to district, but if you as municipality want to access it, you need to submit your safety plan, and then you get access to funding. And then Laingsburg did attend the session, but they also did not submit a safety plan. So so that's how we look at the municipality. So when you look at the expenditure, so the first year I got into this post, the municipalities did not spend 900,000 of the money given to them. So that's why the money was then reduced. This year it has been reduced with 520,000. So we monitor spending. If it's not utilized, then the spending's reduced and it goes then into other. But so but you must also then look that neighborhood watches also receive funding that comes from municipalities. So we've got quite a few things why we support the municipality, and then because they're autonomous entity, we can't actually tell them what to do. So we really focus on building relationships with the municipality. And yeah, and I said, we have plans in place now that if we're funding, basically how do we secure the so the rural leap is, as I said, in 2. How do we secure then the other municipalities? Yeah, and so currently each district is now basically receiving R1 million, but then Central Karoo is 580. But that's what I spoke. 2 of the municipalities actually did not participate in the process. And yeah. Then the chrysalis is, yes, remember chrysalis is one of those projects that when you see it, it speaks for itself. So we assist, so each cohort that is trained, we have got an agreement now that we about over 100 of each of the courses so far have been placed in SAPs. So what agreement is with SAPs is the chrysalis graduates actually go into SAPs and they're going to assist either in the workshop or do administration. They actually assist by releasing SAPs officers to be in the field operationally. Now, with that, so far, we've calculated that of all the members sent so far to SAPs, there have been 27 members taken permanently up into SAPs. So they've basically had been reviewed, got a good review, and SAPs recruited and trained them, and they've become fully fledged police officers. We've also got agreements with municipalities, where municipalities also take quite a few Oversight reaction team and some about different cohorts of chrysalis basically have all been taken up into that. And now recently we've also, the city has asked now to take placements in the traffic, law enforcement, and then their 107 call center, they're looking for graduates. We have got we've got more than 100 placement institutions all over the province. Yeah, and it's the thing, we can train so many more, but we train in plus or minus 600 to 650 per year of chrysalis. I think, thank you, Chair. And the mental, sorry, Chair, the mental health issue is right. I don't remember Victoria's was also speaking towards the law enforcement. So with the mental health with regards to the law enforcement officers, they appointed by the city. So they then would, the LEAP officers, as for example, would then have access to the mental health employee relationship services that the city provides. And in the LEAP officers at the municipality will also then access that municipality's mental health services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for those answers. I can now comfortably say I don't see any other hands. So I will now then just double check with Mr. Matthews. We still don't have anybody from the public.
Chairperson, no members of the public.
We need to do better, get more members of the public to this committee as well. Member Barnes?
Just one small for Chair. Just one small one.
Just as you go, I made a bet with Member Maseko that we are going to finish before infrastructure, and you would have seen Lizette here smiling because I lost that bet because they are finished. But please go ahead.
So it's a short one, Chair. Is on the response on my question of rural safety. I think the department was saying that specific in Beaufort West, they've been having challenges for quite some times to establish a rural safety or K9 unit. I'm not sure, but there's challenges. From where I'm sitting, and it's been long standing outside the budget, if the committee can be taken into confidence, what were these challenges that were there making it difficult to set up? Because correctly, as the department is saying, that Beaufort West is the entry point to have an establishment like that there. It's just alleviating and taking out this criminology that is happening and starting in Beaufort West. So where and who and how, if one can get better detail to understand as to what the problem is that has been long-standing. Thank you, Chair.
That's a very good question. Maybe if you can also then expand on the two municipalities that did not submit.
Thank you so much, Member Barnes. I am not going to answer the question. However, I will ask that David and the HOD answer that question. And I would want to encourage the officials to be as clear and as direct as possible. Because if it's going to come from me, it's going to sound very political. We have seen, but I will let them answer on this very key, because Beaufort West has been identified, that entire district has been identified as a key area where we actually need the collaboration, where we need the integration. And also, David, the list of the municipalities that even when you're in their town, then they don't rock up. Please name and give all that information as well, but also in terms of those challenges, I will, because we can take the committee into confidence, and if the committee should have further engagements with the district or with the municipality, it will definitely help us to take some of these matters forward. And then, can you also touch on how we have had to take away the recruitment of the peace officers in that area now, because of politicians that is wanting to submit names on who must actually be peace officers. And when we got the tip-off, we actually engaged to ensure that the diagnostic test, the vetting, the shortlisting of CVs can actually be conducted in a way that is fair, transparent, but also to get the best persons in that district to apply and not friends of certain people that occupy positions. We've had to literally step in and, but David, ek gaan kwaad raak as ek gaan antwoord, but I think if you answer, you would be able to help the committee.
Minister, so, but the controversial stuff David will answer. Just in terms, I think firstly, it's a funding issue because it does cost a lot of money to establish a K9 unit. It also requires capacity of that municipality that you're funding, that they have to have the capability to establish the unit, but then also the competencies to render that function. It's a very specialized function. I think, and David can answer further. And the idea we had proposed initially was us having the partnership with the Department of Mobility and not necessarily transferring funds to the municipality at that point, but it is a funding issue as well. And then in terms of the peace officers, David will answer, but I think that is important for us to use that methodology for all training of peace officers across the province, because you can't rely on a municipality to give you a list, because there has to be an objective way in which we handle it in-house, because that then would be open to irregularities. And it is a learning curve for us as well that has come to the fore because of the situation in Beaufort West. But we shouldn't be giving the municipality the, the opportunity to provide names. We have to actually get involved, get the names, and us screen and vet across the entire province. David?
Okay. So as the HUD has spoken, it's quite expensive. So Beaufort West, for example, does not have. Last I checked, they had 2 permanent peace officers in their unit, and that's why we're training now another 20, which are going to work, but they don't work mainly as the traffic wardens. They don't necessarily have a traffic services. Now, if you want a K9 officer, is going to be a local person, but he must have traffic qualification and a peace officer qualification to give him the powers to do vehicle searches and confiscations and stuff. So that is the big thing, and that's why we at one stage look at provincial traffic. Then for them, it's going to basically require actually building kennels, procuring. It's about 100,000 rand to procure one and train one dog and handler. So it's a very expensive, and then dogs can only work for about 4 hours and they need to rest. So you need quite a few dogs, and then it's quite hard. So Beaufort West, if we look at the local authority, so the criteria is that what is the capacity to deal with that, and then it's the ability to be able to fund and sustain. Because you must know, like we commit to 3 years funding, which we carry a lot of time, the municipality. But as they go further, we reduce our funding, and more of that funding gets placed on the municipality. So they must be able to sustain that K9 unit. We don't want to invest in dogs and all the technology and equipment, and then once our term is done, with the money is then there's no money to sustain. So that is a big thing. We've been doing this peace officer program a long time. So what we do normally is we ask the municipality to advertise and to put up at libraries and public places the opportunity to be part of this peace officer program. But we have found now that somehow in Beaufort West it's become a very political, but that doesn't matter if Member Barnes or Christian sends He can send all his family members. That doesn't count because what happens is the municipality collects all the applications. Then it comes to us. We do the screening and we do the diagnostic test. There's a specific quality that you have to comply with to become a peace officer. And if you don't pass the diagnostic test, you can't be a peace officer. So that basically we do with the city of Cape Town. So the same thing that LEAP officer gets exposed to, law enforcement in the city, traffic, that diagnostic test is a standard, it's acknowledged. You can't manipulate it. And if, so we then will take the list back and go and sit with the municipality and say, after this diagnostic, these are the names now that have come out, and then we'll come to an agreement on who then would be. We have the final discretion of who we appoint because we are paying for this service for 12 months. But it'll be in collaboration and consultation, and we want to serve all the citizens, so we want to be free and fair for everyone. And it's actually very important stepping stone for youth because this has proven to lead to other job opportunities. So, and especially I know in Beaufort West, there's not many opportunities available. So yeah. But okay, I've been told it's enough. She's my mistress.
Thank you. If I can just wrap up that question and request from this committee, if there's any help and assistance with engaging Beaufort West or any other particular municipality, it will be appreciated. David was extremely conservative because when we have district safety engagements, even in a particular area, we see that even though notice is sent way in advance, certain municipalities in certain districts do not rock up. And we've literally seen it. And when we hear of information where certain politicians are wanting to give certain positions to a person or to a list, we step in like David has confirmed now. I was on a podium in a municipality outside of the city of Cape Town in the Overstrand, in the Overberg area. There's also a municipality there. Help me quickly. Ek wil nou nie self genoem het, ek wil anders sê hulle, so yes, what is that? There's a municipality in the Overberg. No. So I'm standing on the podium, and then two senior politicians indicated from the stage when the opportunity came that they were alerted that we are going to launch peace officers in that particular municipality. Various politicians were called into the mayor's office. They said it from the podium in order to say who must get these opportunities. Said it from the podium. But then in the same fashion, they went on to say the department then stepped in. That is not how it works. So we've even stopped it in another municipality to ensure that we can actually see peace officers in front of us that passed the diagnostic test, passed the vetting, was actually then able to conduct the training, undergo the training, and actually be peace officers. So we do need help. Chairperson, as I close off, we always engage partners and businesses, and my earlier comments about seeing how business and other partners can help. I received a donation of a number of drones. We circulated to the districts, even gave to sandparks. That district is the only district that didn't come back to us. We wanted even to give them free stuff. They don't come back to us. All we wanted was that they are going to sign the document that ultimately agree that they are signing as the holders of this particular technology, that they will be responsible to ensure that there's maintenance on it, which we can't obviously now further provide. Simple. Hulle wil nie goed van die toek hê nie. And that is even the problem that we've had in that particular district. So we will appreciate it if any of the colleagues on this committee can have those tough conversations with other persons outside as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Member Bartman, we had hands for the previous round and you did not put your hand up. Can you make a very quick follow-up, please?
Chair, I would like to know on record which is the municipality or the district municipality that refused the drone. I want the name on record.
Is Central Karoo, and I can also confirm the last time Beaufort didn't pitch up. Prince Albert is always present and others. So we've seen in some municipalities it can work, but we're more than happy to have those tough conversations. I think it impacts everyone here. There's one member committee that's from the Central Karoo. And here we are wanting to give, because of the generosity of a partner, we are wanting to give a technology that can actually help.
You must invite us along as well. They always come when we are there. Minister, with that said, and because we've got no input from the public, I'm going to ask you in the HOD if there are any brief closing remarks that you'd like to make, to please make those now.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, thank you for the input. We have made detailed notes on certain matters that we are needing to come back to this committee on, especially the one in terms of the consideration by Member Christians. And I sincerely trust that we will have ongoing conversations. And please, at this stage, allow me to look to my left, to my right, considering that a question was posed in this particular committee. This would now ultimately be the final budget in this particular forum that will be led by the HOD. From my side, I would want to say thank you. We have spoken so often and we have exchanged plans, interventions, and I do appreciate all that you have done and that you have contributed. And I have no doubt in your new role, which we have clearly indicated, it is where we are able to then channel the energy and the expertise that you bring in order to take our department forward. So thank you for all that you have done, and to all the officials that are here. This might be my last budget. So, julle kan van my dankie sê aan buite. No, I'm joking. This might be my last budget. When I say, can the record just take that away? Member Christians is keeping the faith. Thank you.
Honourable Chair, I can't top that now, the last comments, but I just want to say thank you very much to everyone, to the committee. I always try to answer honestly as far as I could and be as open as I could. I will still be sitting here, possibly a few seats down, and maybe not having so many questions to answer. But thank you very much. Really appreciate all the support as well that we've received as a department over the years. Don't think any question was the wrong question, because we have to account. So appreciate the opportunity as well to be here, and also to just say thank you to my colleagues for all their support over the years as well. It's truly appreciated, and to every staff member in our department for also supporting us through these challenging times, through COVID, etc. But despite the fact that numbers were reduced, that they all stepped up to do more to serve the citizens and the residents of the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister and HOD. And I do hope that we convene again, whether it's the same minister or a new minister, Mike can give you an opportunity in your new position to also answer some questions. Colleagues, thank you very much to the Minister and the HOD and all the officials. I made a joke on Wednesday that when I first joined this committee as an ordinary member, one of my most memorable but also very frightening interactions was downstairs in Committee Room 2 with the previous Minister and Member Christians banging the tables. And the current minister, being the chair, was not quite sure how to stop it. So he just allowed it to continue until Member Porter stepped in and sort of stopped the banging. So I'm glad that since the minister took over and since I started chairing, there's been no banging in the chambers. So we're always very grateful for your work and for your contribution. And I must say, in the last 6 months or so, when we as parliamentarians has gone out on oversight, and we've gone to communities where we did not have the Department of Community Safety security personnel with us, we've certainly felt that. We felt them as missing. And we've been in a few hairy situations in the last couple of months, and we've constantly asked for that back. And it's something that those of us who do intend to come back will need to fight with Parliament for, so that that can be a service that is again procured by the legislature, because we see the value in what DOCS does. Not just in communities, but also to support the work of this committee, because we always felt safer knowing that there were two DOCS buckies with us. Now we rely on SAPs, and let's just say windows were broken in Worcester during one of the public hearings. As a reward for all your hard work, there is lunch in the members' dining room, and Wasim, being who he is, he's made sure that the lunch is ready earlier. If you'd like to have lunch now, but you're also welcome to come back because it will still be there. And you are all excused. We will just need another few minutes to do some admin, but hopefully you all go and eat so that we can join you as well for some lunch. So Member Van Vogel can ask more questions for our next meeting. Colleagues, Wasim has beamed the report on the screen that we can adopt, and then we will, after this, go into resolutions and any requests for information, which will then be contained in our minutes. So I'm just going to read the report. It's the report of the Standing Committee on Police Oversight, Community Safety and Cultural Affairs and Sports on vote 4, Police Oversight and Community Safety in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B1 of 2024, dated 15 March 2024, as follows: that the Standing Committee on Police Oversight, Community Safety and Cultural Affairs and Sports, having considered vote 4, Police Oversight and Community Safety in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B1 of 2024, refer to the committee in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that the committee either supports or does not support the vote. Can I get an indication? Member Bartman?
Chair, I would like to move to support the vote.
Thank you very much. So Member Barnes wanted to second that. The second, Chair.
No, Chair. Thank you. Just add my minority view of not supporting the budget. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So the mover is Mr. Member Bartman to support, and then Member Christians would second that. And then Member Barnes wants to record a minority view in terms of Standing Rule 90, that the African National Congress and not Member Barnes does not support the vote, because we know Member Barnes supports. It's very confusing in this committee. I don't need to read it again, right? So it's adopted. So members, we all agree with the report as it is. It reflects our view.
Move to support the report.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Member Christians, but Member Barnes can also second it since the minority view is now in there. It's always good for the headlines if they see us working together. Possible coalitions, you never know. We're also just going to beam some minutes on the screen. And this is the minutes of our meeting on the 22nd of February. And this was the Western Cape Liquor Authority appointments, the committee meeting. So there's just the attendance. And then this gives an outline of the discussion. It's a very short report, but it wasn't a short meeting. Member Bartman?
To support the minutes.
Thank you very much. Member Bartman moves to support the minutes. We don't need a seconder, but I will second it. And then, colleagues, I'm going to ask, oh, we've got another set of minutes. Yes. We had 2 meetings that week, yes. So this was the next day. We had a meeting for the department to present the policing needs and priorities report, as well as for us to consider the written submission made by the South African Police Service. And then we also made recommendations to the minister in terms of the appointing for the vacancies in the Western Cape Liquor Authority. Member Bartman?
Move to support the minutes.
Thank you very much. I will move to second it as well. Then, colleagues, I need to ask if you would give me the authority to sign off after round robin. Wasim will send the minutes to all of us to check the minutes for today's meeting, but if you give me authority just to sign that off as approved, because otherwise we'll have to have another meeting to approve the minutes and then have another meeting to approve that minutes. And we might move meetings for the rest of until the elections. So Wasim?
Sorry, Chair, just to be procedurally on point, there is a rule that supports the chairperson's request for that. That's Rule 82.
2.4. But can I ask, are there any recommendations or requests for information emanating from this discussion this morning?
Just my thing on the, so I've asked them to do a survey, so they must give us timelines on the survey and the feasibility of that, the funeral cover, because they said they'll look into it. But I've asked them to do a survey, and if they can just give us timelines, you know, that we know, and feedback after the survey, then the person can see. Because I'm really trying to help the neighborhood watchers with the problems that they are facing.
We've got that a sort of action plan on what the department is going to do around the survey, as well as a report into the feasibility studies. So the desktop calculations that David did, if they could just share that with us as well. Member Barnes?
I've jotted down 4 here, Chair. Can I submitted them to Wasim?
Have you written it already?
Yes.
You can, or if you want to read it to us as well. Okay, it's fine. You can send it, it's more efficient. Any other recommendations? Colleagues, with that said, thank you so much. I must say, I didn't think that community safety and cultural affairs and sports would be this much fun, especially after social development. But thank you for your hard work over the last 5 years. I look forward to seeing you all in the budget debates, which I expect to be fireworks because it's our last time together. The meeting is thus adjourned. Oh, I also must say thank you to Wasim. I said it on Wednesday. Wasim is actually the real chair of this committee. As you can see, when the chairpersons changed, nothing changed. The continuity was there. So as the de facto prime minister of this committee, I'm not going to call you the Ayatollah, as some members call the other committee chairs, but as the de facto prime minister of this committee, thank you very much for all your hard work. And I must say, out of all the committees, we are the most easygoing and we have the least amount of catering and accommodation requirements compared to what other committees have to deal with. So you handle that with good aplomb. So thank you very much for all your hard work, and we hope to see you again if we do come back.
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, also thank you to the members for your understanding and cooperation. Sometimes things don't go away, and we appreciate the patience and the support from you as well. Thank you.
We would also like to thank you in the manner that you chair. I mean, community safety and cultural affairs is a double department committee. So it's sometimes quite difficult being able to juggle the two departments and to give everyone the attention they want and deserve and require in this government. But you have really been able to take this committee and put it on the map in terms of the attention that the committee receives, the being able to give us wisdom and guidance on what now and where to go. And I mean, I came in quite late in this committee, so I really appreciate all the guidance on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm laughing here. I just made the joke about we are the most unfazed about food, etc. I was on education again for a brief moment this last month, and I just saw a message on one of the groups. They sent a menu for the Spur again. I'm thinking, members, the meeting is adjourned. There's lunch in the members' dining room if you'd like.